The air in Department 104 of the Los Angeles Superior Court doesn't just sit, it lingers, thick like it knows what's coming. The vaulted ceiling, whitewashed and reverent, swallows even the smallest cough whole. You could hear the creak of leather chairs shifting beneath the weight of unsaid things. No one speaks. Not yet. Lady Gaga sits still, too still, in the second row behind the plaintiff's desk. She's wearing gloves, ivory satin with a pearl at the wrist. One hand holds a single envelope, cream-colored and folded neatly down the middle. Not trembling exactly, but twitching. Like her body is trying to escape something her mind already saw years ago. Across the aisle, Diddy leans back in his chair, chin low, lips pursed in thoughtless defiance. He doesn't look up. He hasn't. Not once since the bailiff announced her name. His posture is slack, but his right foot taps. Just enough to notice. Just enough to betray him. Her lawyer, a lean woman in sharp navy, leans in. Whispers something that doesn't reach the microphone. Gaga doesn't nod, doesn't move. Her eyes stay fixed on the judge, who is reading slowly through something he's already read 3 times. He isn't stalling. He's bracing. No sound, no motion. Just the faint whir of an overhead fan and the flicker of a bulb struggling to stay lit above the clerk's desk. It feels almost sacred, like a cathedral before confession, like someone is about to admit something terrible and irreversible. Then Gaga blinks. Once. The kind of blink that isn't about dust or light. It's about memory. A pause. The judge exhales. One hand rises to adjust his glasses. And then the voice, clear, clinical, emotionless, speaks from the court transcript, reading what she told them in sealed deposition. He asked her to bathe in her own used water. No reaction, not from the gallery, not from the press, not from the man who once called himself the king of bad boy. Just silence. And when she said he asked her to bathe in her own used water, the courtroom didn't move, as if they knew this wasn't even the worst of it. The room doesn't exhale. It tightens. Outside, reporters shout through the courthouse rotunda, their voices tangled in a frenzy of syllables and flashes. Gaga, 2017 suite, sealed document. Diddy's legal team, no comment. But inside, time folds in on itself. The clamor at the edges of the building feels fictional. This courtroom lives in a vacuum now, a pressure chamber of glances and paper. It started with a leak. Not on Twitter, not on TMZ. No neon headline, just a whisper that turned into a wire transfer of attention. A journalist from Variety posted a blurred image of a deposition time-stamped August 7th, 2017. The header, private suite. Deposition number 3, sealed. The name Stephanie Germanotta blacked out, but not well enough. It took the internet 6 minutes to identify the file's true witness. It took less than 1 for her fans to go silent. Now it's evidence. Now it's real. The judge doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't have to. The clerk's reading continues, phrases cut like bone. Requested she engage in symbolic hygiene rituals. A suggestion framed as branding opportunity? Quote, bathe in your own water for me. No movement, except for a small click. A paperclip, loose from a thick file, drops to the linoleum floor near the prosecution table. That's all. That's the grand reaction. Gaga sits like a statue, or perhaps something older, an artifact unearthed from silence. Her face gives nothing. Not shame, not pride, just fatigue, a deep, glacial knowing, as if her body has been rehearsing for this moment for years, and now finally it gets to go still. But stillness isn't surrender. Her silence becomes presence, heavy, full of accusation, a protest without a chant. Then Diddy shifts. He leans to his right, whispering something into the ear of his lawyer, a man once called the cleanup king in entertainment law. But the lawyer doesn't respond, doesn't blink. He watches the judge's bench like it's the edge of a cliff. The pages keep turning. Another line from the sealed file. He offered branding deals, but only if she played his game. One of those games included, the clerk hesitates, but only briefly, enough to let the word float in, an immersion. The judge raises his eyes, not in shock, in obligation, as if he's acknowledging not the horror, but the inevitability of it. No one says a word, because here in this room, the unspeakable isn't new. It's just finally written down. The suite is too curated to be casual. Cream velvet drapes hang heavy against the tall windows, blocking out a city that pulses with humidity and promise. Inside, the air is unnaturally cool, piped in hard through chrome vents. A low playlist hums through concealed speakers, something ambient, expensive. The kind of sound you forget is playing until it stops. Lady Gaga arrives just after 9 p.m., wearing a black mesh top tucked into high-waisted leather pants, her platinum hair scraped into a tight knot that gives her face a weaponized elegance. She doesn't walk into rooms, she occupies them. But here she hesitates at the door. Not for long, just a flicker of something. A pause too quick to clock. The invite was simple. Private preview, Ciroc project, closed list. She wasn't told who else would be there, but she already knows. There's a bar in the center of the room, mirrored and backlit, stocked with Ciroc in every flavor, every color. Crystal decanters sparkle under the chandelier. Velvet armchairs have been arranged in a loose semicircle around a clawfoot tub, yes, a bathtub, filled with ice and stacked bottles of Fiji water, their labels glinting like diamonds under spotlights. The tub is pristine, empty but suggestive, performative, like someone expected it to mean something. Diddy stands at the far end of the room, wearing sunglasses despite the dim, talking to a young producer who keeps nodding too often. He notices her. Of course he does. "The Queen has arrived," he announces, arms opening wide. Everyone turns. A few chuckles, a few stares. Gaga forces a smile, glides forward. Her boots click once, twice on the marble floor. She does not hug him. She lets his air kiss pass near her cheek like a drone grazing glass. The night unfolds in fragments, flutes of champagne. That ambient music again, laughter that floats just above sincerity. A woman from marketing talks about liquid luxury branding. Another guest jokes about packaging, essence of celebrity. Someone passes around a mock-up of a fragrance bottle in the shape of a microphone. Then Diddy clears his throat. Not loudly, just enough. He's standing by the bathtub now, drink in hand. The room quiets, almost instinctively. A beat passes. His eyes don't leave Gaga. "You know what we should do?" he says, half smiling. "We should sell your bathwater." The words land without weight at first, like a balloon slowly deflating in the corner. He chuckles, then, a second later, "No, for real. You're divine enough for that. You don't even need perfume. Just bottle that." It hangs there, thick, not offensive, not vulgar, something worse, performative, expectant, like he's waiting for the laugh track, like he's done this before. A soft, uncomfortable sound escapes the room, the sound of everyone pretending it's funny before they know what's happening. Nervous chuckles, a sip of wine, a cough. Gaga looks at him. Long enough for silence to stretch. Then she laughs, sharp, controlled. Perfect timing. She throws her head back just enough, flashes her teeth. No one can accuse her of taking it too seriously, but her eyes don't move. They lock onto him like glass on steel, unblinking, unflinching, a perfect replica of amusement, with no soul inside. She laughs too, but only with her mouth. The evening continues. People drink. Someone suggests a mock commercial. Diddy disappears into a side room, returns wearing a towel like a joke, and someone takes a photo that never makes it online. But the bathtub stays full, untouched, centered in the room like a shrine to ego. Gaga leaves early, says she has another event. No one believes her, but no one stops her. She walks out without looking back. In the hallway, she pulls off her earrings with a single hand, one by one, and drops them into her clutch like they're heavier than they should be. Later that night, her assistant will ask if she wants to talk about it. She won't answer. It starts like all strange things do in Hollywood. Backstage. January 2021, deep inside the dressing suite of a music video shoot in Laurel Canyon, a makeup artist named Mira is powdering the nose of a pop singer who doesn't blink unless told. The room is too bright, the air thick with setting spray and nervous caffeine. Stylists murmur in shorthand. Look 3, gold cuff, nails need redoing. But then, under the low breath of a curling iron and a playlist of recycled top 40, Mira hears it. Yeah, the bathwater thing. Again. The stylist says it like an afterthought, like it's not the first time. She's scrolling through her phone, looking for something, but her voice lingers. Mira doesn't ask. Not then. But later, over drinks, she will. And what she's told won't make sense. Not fully. But it won't leave her mind either. Something about Gaga, something about a bathtub, something about Diddy saying she was holy enough to bottle. No names are said with conviction, just gestures, eyebrow arches, the kind of suggestion that leaves fingerprints, not facts. 3 weeks later, an email circulates among an inner circle of entertainment publicists. The subject line reads, "Clean water, dirty fame." No body text, just an image attachment. It's a mock ad. Gaga's face, pixelated and slightly distorted, superimposed over a clawfoot tub. The bottle label reads, "Ode to Reputation." The slogan underneath, "Rinse, repeat, obey." It's unclear where it came from. No sender traceable, no source willing to own it. But it spreads, quietly, like mold in a closed trailer. People start to talk, never in interviews, never on record, but in green rooms and hallway glances, at rap parties when the drinks loosen mouths just enough. It wasn't just a joke. He's done it before. They say he thinks it's symbolic. The water, the cleansing, the ownership. The metaphor begins to build. The bathwater. It's not just about celebrity or spectacle. It becomes a symbol, a ritual. The idea of taking something private, something intimate, something used, and making it public, selling it, controlling the narrative of it. It's not kink, it's branding. It's alchemy through shame. And Gaga, she becomes part myth, part warning. Her silence becomes louder than any quote could have been. Then, in late 2022, the silence cracks. A tweet, just one, from an unverified account known for dissecting celebrity PR optics. There's a reason no one talks about that suite at the Soho Grand. Check the ice tub. Dirty fame or used water. It gains traction. 10 retweets, then 50, then 1,000. The comments split, half laughing, half connecting invisible threads. Then comes the TikTok. A young industry assistant, face blurred and voice altered, posts a 30-second clip. Y'all really think Gaga just left early from a Diddy party for no reason? That tub wasn't for decoration. Watch the patterns. Watch the women who vanish from the invite lists. The video is taken down within 2 hours, but it doesn't matter. The whispers are now threads, the threads become ropes, and soon those ropes are dragging something heavy, something waterlogged into the light. Media outlets don't bite immediately. It's too bizarre, too slippery. But the story doesn't come through headlines. It comes through absences. Magazine shoots get canceled. A rumored collab between Ciroc and a major pop girl disappears overnight. Gaga posts 3 photos in all black, bathtub and none, and captions it simply, "No more baptisms." The water metaphor has become poison, and suddenly the glamour starts to look stained. Behind every red carpet photo, there's the memory of a bathtub on ice. Behind every beauty campaign, the question, what part of her did they try to bottle? And who else laughed when they shouldn't have? By spring of 2023, whispers aren't whispers anymore. They're timelines, they're Reddit threads. They're unanswered DMS to celebrity assistants with scene beneath them. And inside the courtroom, as the envelope is passed from Gaga's gloved fingers to her counsel, everyone knows. This wasn't just about what he said that night. It's about what no one said for years. His name is Jonah Wells, 46, hairline thinning, shoulders slightly rounded like someone who has spent most of his life leaning over consoles, adjusting decibels while the rest of the world danced. He wears a button-down that doesn't quite fit and shoes that squeak once on the marble floor as he approaches the stand. He's not a man who likes to speak. You can tell the moment he raises his right hand to take the oath. There's a tremble, not of fear, but of calculation. He has been silent for years, and now each word weighs something. Jonah has been sober for 11, and he says it right away. I'm clean. Haven't touched a drink since May 9th, 2014, so I remember things. Clearly now. He clears his throat. The courtroom leans in. Even the air seems to still. It was July 18th, 2017. He was hired freelance by a sound coordinator who often brought him onto off-book projects for artists. VIP sessions, exclusive listening events, brand synergy nights when they called them. This one was at the Soho Grand. No stage, no mics, just ambient sound mixing and playback. Jonah arrived 3 hours early to test levels. The first thing he noticed wasn't the room or the lighting, it was the tub. They wheeled it in like it was equipment, he says, on a dolly, wrapped in black fabric. There was a whole conversation about where to put it. They moved it twice so it could be seen better from the center of the room. He describes how the tub was filled, first with ice, then with Fiji water. Dozens of bottles, all opened, all poured. That alone seemed odd to him, wasteful, theatrical, but he assumed it was just for display. Then came the glass bottle, not Fiji. It looked like an apothecary decanter, tall, ribbed glass with a glass stopper. One of the assistants opened it and poured it in like it was holy. What was inside? Water. I mean, clear liquid. But it wasn't from a brand. It smelled faintly like eucalyptus and like rose shampoo. Not like the others. And they didn't let anyone touch it. He swallows. A woman labeled it on a clipboard. I saw the words, rinse water, Gaga. The phrase hangs in the courtroom like a fog that won't lift. There's an audible breath. A juror shifts. Someone scribbles. Someone else stares, frozen. The judge says nothing. Jonah continues. He says he watched as the rest of the room was staged around the tub. How the lighting was adjusted to make the water sparkle. How no one questioned it. Everyone treated it like a centerpiece. It wasn't sexual, Jonah says. It was ritual. That line lands like a crack in marble. Clean, deep, irreversible. He goes on, quietly, carefully. Talks about how Diddy asked for the music to be turned down when Gaga walked in. How the room paused like a scene cue. How the tub became something everyone tried not to look at directly, as though eye contact with it might mean something. There was this reverence, like they were expecting her to bless the space by being near it. Did Gaga see it? Yes, Jonah says. She saw it the moment she walked in. And did she say anything? He hesitates. Number. But her face changed, not shocked, just cold, like something old had been confirmed. The silence in the room is now thick. Even the defense doesn't interrupt. Diddy doesn't look at him. Jonah describes how the mood of the evening turned brittle after that. How Gaga left early. How, after she was gone, Diddy poured himself a glass from the decanter and toasted the room. He said, "To the future," and everyone laughed. Jonah didn't. That was the last freelance job he took in New York. He moved back to Santa Fe 2 months later. Never worked another private event. Never talked about what he saw, until now. Why speak now? Jonah looks down at his hands. Because silence becomes complicity, and I've already done enough of that in my life. He says it softly. No applause, no gasps. Just the steady hum of fluorescent lights overhead. When he steps down, the courtroom doesn't move. But something has shifted. There is a fracture now, a break in the performance. The tub is no longer metaphor, it is real. It was seen, it was named. And the man who named it didn't ask to be believed. He just told the truth. She steps to the stand like she's walking onto a stage she never wanted to headline. Not in heels, not in feathers, not in the theatrics that once cloaked her like armor. Just a soft gray suit, no jewelry, hair pulled back with nothing to hide behind. The courtroom doesn't breathe. Even the bailiff lowers his eyes, not out of disinterest, but respect. Lady Gaga sits, adjusts the microphone gently, like it might break under the weight of what she's about to say. She doesn't look at Diddy. She doesn't need to. Her words will find him. I've spent most of my life being watched. Meant to be watched. Meant to be consumed. She pauses, not to gather herself, but to let the truth settle like ash. When I was 22, I learned the sound a record executive makes when he sees you not as a person, but as a product. It's not a word. It's a silence. The kind that happens before a price is named. A flicker of breath in the gallery. She continues, voice low, flat, unwavering. Being a woman in music is like being a banquet served on a glass table. They'll eat until there's nothing left. Then they'll ask why you look so empty. She looks forward now, not at the judge or her lawyer, just past the wood paneling, like there's a different version of her sitting out there, watching. And I let them, willingly at first, because I thought that's what love was, what success was, giving. Her voice doesn't crack. That's the most haunting part of it, the restraint, the emotional dissection without a single tear. So when he said we should sell my bathwater, I didn't laugh because it was funny. I laughed because I thought that was the price of staying welcome. The room tightens. I gave the world my voice, she says slowly, and they asked for my bathwater too. A juror shifts. Another lowers their head. It wasn't a compliment. It wasn't flirtation. It was a claim, a mark. He was saying, I can turn your dignity into profit. He was saying, you belong to me now, even the parts of you that have already been used. She breathes in, shallow and careful. Her hands remain clasped in her lap, knuckles white, thumbs still. And maybe that wouldn't have haunted me if it ended there. But it didn't. She talks now about the months that followed, the silence, the PR pressure, the photo shoots where water was suddenly a motif, the Xerox-sponsored spreads where she was posed near tubs, fountains, faucets, subtle, unspoken nods. A kind of forced reclamation twisted into branding. You start to doubt yourself. You think maybe you brought the tub in, maybe you poured it yourself. Maybe you're lucky anyone wanted to bottle you at all. A pause, heavier than before. I wasn't afraid of him, she says. I was afraid of what I'd do to myself to keep him happy. It hits harder than any accusation. This isn't rage. This isn't vengeance. It's reflection, a reckoning in real time. People think abuse always sounds like screaming, but sometimes it sounds like clapping. Sometimes it looks like a check, or an award, or a headline that says, she's never looked better. She speaks about the nights she stared at hotel bathroom mirrors, rehearsing smiles, about the times she convinced herself she was in control, because that was easier than admitting she wasn't. There were women at that party who saw it too, and they said nothing, not because they were cruel, but because they were surviving. We all are. She glances at the jury now, just briefly. And to every girl who saw that mock ad and thought it was real, I'm sorry. I let them make you think that was me, that I agreed, that your body too is a novelty if famous enough. It isn't. A long beat. You could drop a pin in the stillness. She reaches into her blazer and pulls out a folded sheet of paper. Not a script, not a statement, just words she says she wrote on a hotel napkin the night after that party. I am not the water they poured. I am the faucet they never built, and I am done leaking what they think is theirs. She folds it again, places it down, not with drama, with finality. That's all. No tears, no hug from her lawyer, no glances at the man she refused to name until the court forced it. She steps down from the stand, walks back to her seat, and for the first time, Diddy looks up. But Gaga doesn't look back, because what was stolen from her wasn't just privacy or agency or dignity. It was silence, and she just took that back. The first day he doesn't show up, it feels like a mistake, a scheduling error, a late flight, a shadowed SUV in the wrong lane. But by noon, the judge's voice turns sharp. The cameras catch a glance exchanged between two members of his legal team. Not panic, but something stranger. Resignation. By the second absence, it becomes a story. Mr. Combs is unavailable for comment. Mr. Combs is tending to personal matters overseas. Rumors bloom like black mold, that he's in a gated villa in Turks and Caicos, unreachable by phone, that he's rerouted his private jet 3 times in 1 week, that the number tied to his personal assistant was deactivated 36 hours after Gaga's testimony. Inside the courtroom, subpoenas begin to stack like forgotten mail. Outside, the world is watching, not with rage but with stillness, a collective breath being held. On a live stream, a motion from Diddy's legal counsel to suppress third-party deposition is denied. The camera lingers too long on the empty chair where he should be. A throne with no king, and still he doesn't come. The court issues a warning, then a fine, then a bench order. Still, silence. But it isn't quiet online. Clips begin resurfacing, not leaked, not new. Old footage, curated through a new lens. Interviews where his swagger once read as charm, now laced with something colder. A laugh that lasts too long. A hand that lingers on a shoulder. A comment that now feels calculated. One clip, a 2009 award show moment where Diddy jokingly offers to bottle Beyoncé's perfume Sweat, reappears. It trends. But this time the comments are different. It's all connected. We just didn't want to see it. He's been telling us who he is for decades. We laughed. The algorithm becomes a weapon now, not wielded by hackers but by memory. Every moment archived becomes evidence. His silence curdles. On TMZ, a bodyguard is seen exiting a Miami property with 2 duffel bags, head down. The video is short, but in the frame is a sculpture once posted in Diddy's own Instagram years ago. The confirmation is unspoken. He's moving, hiding, retreating. Even his allies begin to go dark. Artists who once owed their rise to him are silent. An R&B star deletes a decades-old tweet praising him. Another declines to comment when asked by Variety. A hip-hop magazine quietly removes him from a Legacy Icons banner. No statements, just digital erosion. Back in court, his lawyer begins showing strain. The once immaculately pressed woman now wears her exhaustion like a film on her skin. She no longer objects. She barely looks at the exhibits. You can feel the shift in the room. The untouchable is no longer untouchable. The kingdom didn't fall with fire. It just began to rot. Emails from assistants begin appearing in court exhibits. Timestamps, purchase orders, late-night delivery receipts for spa salts, essential oils, imported bottled water in quantities that defy logic. The silence no longer protects. Now it incriminates. And still, the chair remains empty. His empire, the houses, the label, the influence, remains standing. But like a mansion locked from the inside, its windows darkened, its echo no longer echoing back. No one says the word fugitive. Not yet. But the narrative drips into the ground like rusted water. Silent, irreversible. And so the room waits. Not for him, but for what's coming next. There's no explosion, no mass cancellation, no formal "we stand with her" hashtags. Just a slow drift, like furniture quietly being moved in the middle of the night. At first it's a streaming hiccup. A 2013 track Diddy produced for a platinum-selling artist disappears from Spotify. A few users notice. Maybe a licensing issue, maybe nothing. But the artist says nothing. No repost, no denial. Just silence. Then a photo vanishes. A candid black and white snap from the 2018 Met Gala. Gaga, Diddy, and 2 other celebrities draped in velvet and power. It had lived in the top corner of a stylist's grid for years. Now, gone, replaced by a blank square, no caption, and then a ripple. Beyoncé's personal stylist, known for never speaking out unless it's through fabric, quietly reposts a Getty image of Gaga leaving the courthouse in that soft gray suit. No filter, no tag, just a single dove emoji in the caption. That post is shared, and shared again. Suddenly, every aesthetic Instagram account features Gaga's court outfit like it's red carpet gospel. The gray becomes sacred. The suit becomes armor. Elsewhere, a viral TikTok sound vanishes overnight. It featured a Diddy quote about owning your image before someone sells it for you. That quote, once used as girl boss inspiration, now sits uneasily in people's mouths. "It hits different now," one creator whispers. "He didn't mean it like we thought." Even Apple Music curators adjust. A hip-hop icons playlist, once fronted by Diddy's face, now leads with Kendrick. No fanfare, just rearrangement. This is not the cancellation generation. This is the revision generation. The internet doesn't yell anymore. It just rearranges itself. Late one night, Solange Knowles reposts a clip. Gaga's testimony about being the faucet they never built. No caption, but her comment section floods with white heart emojis. No statements, just shared knowing. A prominent fashion house removes a photo campaign from its website. A cologne ad that once featured Diddy submerged in a gold bathtub. Gaze hungry. That image was up for 6 years. Now just a 404 error. The reshaping is almost ecclesiastical, like an exorcism without ritual. Even publications pivot. An op-ed titled "Silence as Rebellion: What Gaga Showed Us in Court" hits #1 on Medium. Its thesis is quiet rage, that to refuse the microphone can be more deafening than speaking. Red carpets shift too. At a Cannes after-party, a breakout star wears all gray and tells no one why. But the image goes viral. Comments like, "That's her gray." Gaga gray is the new black. And yet no one ever says Diddy's name. Not on talk shows, not on podcasts. Even the gossip accounts, usually quick to throw gasoline on scandal, stick to initials, symbols, ellipses. He who bottled her worth. The man in the chair that stays empty. It's cultural code now, an underground language of omission. This is what reckoning looks like now. Not sirens, but redirection. Not cancellation, but refusal. Not justice, but clarity. And clarity is its own kind of violence. Not toward him, but toward the myth he built. It begins with the name Delaney, a former assistant, long gone from the spotlight. Her NDA expired quietly. Agrees to testify. Not with fury, not with vengeance, but with the hollow cadence of someone who's waited too long to speak. She doesn't enter like a bombshell. She arrives like a postscript. And yet, her words alter the temperature of the room. "I wasn't supposed to remember anything," she says, "but I wrote it down anyway, in case I stopped believing it happened." In her hands, a journal. Spiral-bound, edges frayed. Inside, her pen ink wobbles from nerves, but the entries are chilling in their simplicity. July 18th, 2017. Suite 1041, Gaga confirmed. Fiji confirmed. Ice tub, petals, privacy curtain, champagne to follow. The prosecution calls it corroboration. The defense calls it fan fiction. But the jury leans forward. Then comes Malik, a champagne server from that same night. No legal team, no platform. Just a quiet, brown-eyed man in a pressed black vest. His voice is even, rehearsed, but his hands tremble when he describes the ice tub. "There was a chill to the room," he says, but not from the air conditioning. He describes unpacking the Fiji bottles himself, only to be told minutes later to remove them. Gaga's water only, a manager had instructed. VIP ritual. He assumed it was branding. Performance art, maybe. But then he saw her, seated on the far velvet armchair, still in her coat, not yet smiling. She didn't look like a goddess, he says. She looked like someone trying to disappear. The court projector lights up. Photos appear, previously sealed from press, showing that very suite. Crystal trays, red petals and ice, a small whiteboard tucked near the minibar with scrawled notes. Towels, black. Camera 1, off. No phones. Faucet equals Gaga. Laughter breaks out in a corner of the gallery. The judge silences it with a look. Another photo. A printed seating chart. Names marked in black ink. One circled in gold. Gaga. Not under performer, not under guest, just circled. The prosecutor walks closer. Why was her name the only one highlighted? No one answers. Then comes a quote from a planning email between two event coordinators, now entered into evidence. It reads simply, "We need to brief her better this time. She thought she was attending. She wasn't. She was part of the setup." A pause, then, not an artist, not a guest, a prop. The words land like stone. More names trickle in. A wardrobe intern testifies anonymously, her voice digitally distorted. She recounts sourcing 3 duplicate pairs of silk gloves in case the originals got wet during the ritual. What ritual? The prosecutor asks. Silence. Then, they didn't call it that. But we all knew. An event decorator is called. He shows receipts, custom floral orders, a transparent soaking basin imported from Paris, notes from a label executive that read, "Divine but not messy. Sell the vision, not the water." Another witness, a marketing intern, brings forward emails she archived in fear. One from a senior executive describes the event as brand sorcery, where celebrity becomes essence. She was told to prepare hashtags in case Gaga consented to public images. They never launched the campaign. But the framework, the machine, it had been rehearsed. Another document shows an internal pitch deck titled, "Clean Water, Dirty Fame, Limited Drops for Divine Drinkers." The courtroom exhales like something rotten has been named, and the thread begins to tighten. This wasn't a one-night absurdity. This was a system, a machinery of spectacle masked as celebration, worship dressed in branding, performance twisted into consumption, control through ritual, fame as a faucet, autonomy liquefied. Gaga wasn't invited, she was curated. One juror turns away from the exhibits, not from offense but from recognition. You can almost see her asking, what other rooms have looked like this, just out of frame? Outside, the story spreads. An archived post from a minor celebrity reappears. A joking caption from 2017 about being offered diva juice at a VIP suite. People start connecting the dots. And for the first time, it's not about Diddy. It's about what he built, what was allowed, what was applauded, and what was photographed but never named. The courtroom is thick with an almost unbearable quiet. The seats where Diddy's team should be are emptier each day, until one morning they're gone altogether. The last of his lawyers packing briefcases in slow mechanical movements, avoiding eye contact with the press. No statements, no goodbyes, just the whisper of leather on polished floors. The judge announces, voice steady but weary, that without the defendant's presence, proceedings will continue. But it's clear to everyone that the empire is cracking from within. Outside the courthouse, the cameras catch Lady Gaga's approach. There are no flashing bulbs, no frantic questions shouted. She moves through the crowd with a gravity that feels like a tide pulling under a storm-dark sky. Her eyes are clear, her face bare. No sunglasses to shield her gaze, no mask to hide the exhaustion etched into her skin. She walks like someone who had handed over a ghost. Inside, the courtroom's atmosphere thickens. The centerpiece of the prosecution's case, a stark, vintage bathtub used as evidence, symbol of the whispered ritual, stands alone in the corner beneath cold, clinical lighting. The bathtub's pristine white contrasts sharply with the heavy shadows that fall around it. As the final witness wraps their testimony, the judge signals for the bathtub prop to be quietly removed from the evidence room. A court officer gently drapes a black cloth over it, obscuring the gleam, and carries it silently away. Gaga's eyes flicker briefly toward where it once stood, but she does not look again. Her silence is louder than any statement. In the jury box, a moment fractures the stoic calm. A juror, a woman, mid-30s, blinks rapidly, the glossiness of tears threatening to spill. She presses her palms to her face, trying to hold the moment back. No one approaches, no hands rest on her shoulders, no whispered consolations. The room stays frozen, a collective, unspoken acknowledgement. This is not just a trial of facts, but of fractures, of wounds that cannot be neatly bandaged or forgotten. Outside, the city hums on, indifferent yet changed. And in that silence, one truth remains unshaken. Some ghosts refuse to be buried. The courtroom lights have dimmed, the echoes of voices long faded. But the story lingers, not in headlines, not in verdicts, but in the quiet places memory inhabits. There is a price to becoming a symbol, to being both idol and offering, to standing on a pedestal that glimmers but never quite feels solid beneath your feet. Lady Gaga's voice, low and intimate, threads through the silence like a confession meant only for the night. She recalls the phrase spoken once in that suite years ago, whispered with unsettling reverence, "Bathe in your own divinity." The words hung heavy then, like a fragrance that clings long after the room has emptied. A command disguised as flattery, a ritual disguised as praise, a promise in a prison, becoming the vessel for a myth, the one who shines so bright. Others thirst for her essence. But what happens when the light dims? When the pedestal cracks? When the water, once sacred, turns cold and still? She does not offer answers. Instead, she holds the question in her silence, in the weight of her gaze, in the spaces between breaths. Because the truth is not loud. It is subtle, insidious. Because when power starts to rot, it doesn't scream. It drips, quietly like water down the drain. And some rooms we never speak about are the ones we never leave.